Do you want more success, more growth, more results? Then it's time for the Boundless Success Accelerator from the Modern Observer Group. This isn't your average coaching program. It's where top performers come to dominate. Weekly group sessions, on-demand coaching, a community that's got your back, and a power-packed library of tools to supercharge your business and career. No more excuses, no more waiting. Get in, level up, and start building the life you've been dreaming about. Visit us at modernobserver.com/boundlesssuccess to join today. Let's get you to the next level.
Welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin. And Dr. Lopkin, you ever hear the old adage, all things else are irrelevant? Kind of somewhat applies. India and Pakistan, I think Pakistan had a terrorist attack against India first, and India's retaliated in a massive fashion, missile attack. And just to put some context on it, looking into it, like I think time flies, 15 years ago, it was under George W. They were almost in a conflict, and Rumsfeld went to both of them and showed them pictures of what would happen if they went nuclear. And at the time, being a self-serving person that I am, I said, I don't give a shit. Not my problem. And then doing further research, Dr. Lopkin, I found out that 1/3 of the world potentially would expire due to famine if they did go nuclear, because both of them will have over 100 nuclear weapons. Your thoughts? And by the way, a hatred that is unrivaled, except maybe in the Middle East. They despise each other. They hate each other.
Yes, this is an ancient battle. They've been at each other's throats for, well, certainly decades, but I think technically centuries.
Well, let me put in a little bit of historical context. In fact, when India got its independence from Great Britain back after World War II, they basically were one country. There was no such a thing as India or Pakistan and Bangladesh, but they had such heated, and heated, basically minimizing it. It was a bloodbath, and they had to separate them. So it's pretty bad. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, and again, the conflicts between the peoples, if not the governments, have been going back for centuries. It is absolutely ridiculous. Basically, in a nutshell, what happened was there was a terrorist attack in Kashmir, which is disputed territory. Mm-hmm. The attack was against India. India has said, Pakistan has denied any involvement. India has said they've tracked down who was responsible, and the folks that claim to be responsible are actually have ties to Pakistan militias. So India did a counterstrike yesterday and took out terrorist infrastructure. Now, they were very careful not to target any Pakistani military, but unfortunately, it does look like civilians were killed. Pakistan responded by shooting down Indian fighter jets. And now India is actually trying to de-escalate, because they are actually smart enough to know if this goes nuclear, it's bye-bye,
Yeah, and something else about, I agree very little with Barack Obama, but one thing I do agree with him on was that he told Trump the thing that keeps him up at night is the nuclear Pakistan, because people don't really understand this or realize it. Pakistan is pretty close to a failed state with nuclear weapons. Just want to put that on you, Dr. Lopkin. Yeah, it's almost it's hanging on to a semblance of a government.
Well, Remember, Osama bin Laden hid out in Pakistan for years, and Pakistan actually kept us from going in to find him. The Pakistani government has terrorist ties. They have for God knows how long. This is not a stable part of the world.
No,
The fact that
no.
they have nukes, the fact that either one of these countries has
Well, no, no.
nukes
Yeah, I
is
have to say, India is a
terrifying.
lot more. India, yeah, it's definitely terrifying, but India is exponentially more stable. India is at least part of the world community.
Yes.
Pakistan, I'm not. I wouldn't give it that nod.
Yeah, in India for the most part is part of the global community. They do business all over the world, but by the same token, where Pakistan has deep ties to terrorists, India has deep ties to Russia. At this point in time, I don't know that that's better.
Yeah, wait, oh, let me be clear. You are correct, Doctor. It's not good any way you look at it, but I
Right.
would say in terms of the level of danger, both of them having nuclear. And the other thing is, I hate to be so blunt, but life. I've known people to travel to India and Pakistan. Life does not have the same value as it does in the West. That's another issue as well. So I don't think it's going to escalate, but it's just one more hot area, but I think area that might have some promise. We'll start with Ukraine. Trump signed the mineral deal, and also it looks like hinting that there might be another participant in the Abraham Accords, and it's appearing, not definite, appearing that it could be Saudi Arabia. Many geopolitical experts think that if that does happen, Iran is further in the box. Your thoughts, Doctor?
Yeah. Well, starting with Ukraine, the mineral deal is key because
Mm-hmm.
the rare earth minerals that are in Ukraine, as well as several other areas, they are crucial for building batteries, building electric cars, all of our infrastructure. We require these minerals. The fact that we now have a deal with Ukraine should put Putin off because
Mm-hmm.
let's face it, we're not going to send companies to mine there without protecting them. So that's sending a message to Putin that, look, you're going to have to come to the table for real because we are going to be working there. And if you bomb anywhere near us, we will respond.
Agreed. And yes, many yes that and even beyond that. But I think it sends many signals, and it's a stroke of genius. It's again playing 3D checkers versus I mean 3D chess versus checkers. And also, what do you think of the potential for the Abraham Accords being heightened and added to with Saudi Arabia?
Well, that actually doesn't surprise me. If you remember, Saudi Arabia and Israel were
Close.
close to a deal just before October 7th. And in fact, there's a lot of speculation that that was one of the things that pushed Iran to manipulate Hamas and Hezbollah into doing this because they did not want that deal with Saudi Arabia going through. Yes, it does further minimize Iran. And, if the deal had gone through prior to October 7th, it would have been a big deal. Now, it is pivotable, it is game changing because back then, even with the Saudi Arabian Israel deal, Biden was still funneling money to Iran. Trump has cut off all of that money. He's talked numerous times about blocking them from the world economy. He has said over and over again that under no uncertain terms will they be allowed to have nukes. So this is now an even bigger deal than it would have been on October 6th.
May I interject something on that? I found an interesting commentary. Um, Beyond, yes, you are 100% correct about the October surprise tragedy, but it's also much. When you elaborate on that. Yes, Saudi Arabia backed away, but they also backed away because it looked like Israel was becoming weaker. It was a big intelligence failure and all the above. And now that Israel has proven that they are the, without question, dominant power in the Middle East and Iran is highly crippled, I believe that Saudi Arabia sees this as a tremendous opportunity to put the final kibosh. I really think it was a stroke of genius. I think it will happen. Saudi Arabia and Iran hate each other. And I think the only thing, and I want your comment, I'm sure our listeners do as well, that could be a real potential negative is like a cornered cat. I believe Iran is increasingly feeling that way, especially their government,
Yeah,
their leadership.
Iran is definitely in a corner, back to the wall, and yes, that is when an animal is most dangerous. In terms of what Saudi Arabia expected from Israel, one, I don't think they expected Israel to keep going like this. I think they expected this to go the way of most other Middle Eastern wars with Israel, where they took they took their land back, they got the hostages, game over, couple of weeks. Hamas kept doubling down. They killed the hostages, they've refused to release them, and Israel has decided, all right, enough is enough. We are eliminating Hamas. They also greatly weakened Hezbollah. They've also been attacking in Lebanon to get rid of the Houthis. And of course, Trump backed them up by bombing the Houthis at sea every time they had a missile attack. So it is a very different situation than it was on October 6th. I don't think we've actually talked about this on the podcast, but it has just recently come out that the Biden administration, not Joe Biden himself, but the administration, was making plans to interfere in the Israeli elections and get Netanyahu out of power because they knew Netanyahu was going to do this. Now, to Joe Biden's credit, he's actually the one that stopped them from going ahead with this. How that happened, I don't know, but I'll give credit where
Maybe
credit
a
is
moment of
due.
clarity, but that actually even goes back to Obama. He was no friend of Israel, and he hated Netanyahu.
Oh, yeah.
Hated him.
But the fact that we now have an American government who is backing Israel unconditionally, that Israel is unanimous. Their ministry, their government just put forth a plan to occupy Gaza for as long as it will take to eliminate Hamas. So Iran is losing on every front. I don't think Iran ever imagined that this would be a loss this big for them.
100% correct. Even in terms of when they had the big 300 missile strike, which essentially was a complete and abject failure. Very, very interesting. There's no question about that. Senator Lindsey Graham, came out and said that long it's long overdue that Israel, with the help of the United States, hits Iran and knocks out their nuclear facilities. Your thoughts?
Lindsey Graham's not the only one who's saying that. I mean, Trump has told Netanyahu, "You do what you need to do. Tell us what you need. We've got your back." John Fetterman has been talking about the fact that Iran needs to be taken out. Forget negotiations. He is actually advocating that we bomb Iran and take out their nuclear facilities once and for all. So, yeah, this is going on in our government. It's not just Lindsey Graham. The government has finally realized Iran cannot be negotiated with. They cannot be dealt with other than in terms they understand, which is essentially blasting them back to the Stone Age.
Why do you think we are negotiating at all? That is Trump. Do you think it's just for optics
I
or
think, well,
checking all the boxes before you push the final button, so to speak?
I think it's partially checking all the boxes. I also think Trump has, and he's stated this over and over again. He has an aversion to getting us more involved in foreign wars. So if he can negotiate his way to a peace deal, he that's his preference. Do I think he's going to be able to? As people keep yelling, well, you can't trust Putin. I think Putin is an angel compared to the Iranians.
You are correct, and also the terms, unlike the naivety of Obama and the blown outness of Biden, his negotiating stance is basically inspections anytime, anywhere, the dismantling of nuclear facilities. They're never going to go for that.
No, I
So
don't.
it's
I
not going
don't.
to be like, yeah, you can let us look at your the ones you want us to look at. No, it's very invasive, and it's not going to happen.
Well, actually, I think there's a third option. I honestly think what is going to happen is Trump is going to back the Iranian regime into a corner. Iran's not going to agree to a new deal because I don't think they'll ever agree to the terms Trump is putting forward. But Trump is going to keep putting pressure on them more and more. And unlike Obama and Biden, Iran's already seen that we have no problem bombing their proxies and taking out their proxies. So that's
Hmm.
going to put more pressure on them. I think ultimately the pressure is going to break, and we're not going to take out the Iranian regime. The Iranian people will.
That's actually very interesting because Netanyahu is giving a talk, and he does a lot of posting and messaging to Iran. He, in spite of what the repercussions could be, and I know this sounds crazy, he gets a lot of positive feedback from Iranians.
Yes, when Israel struck Iran after Iran's missile attack, there was graffiti all over Iran from the people that in Arabic said, take them out, we have your back. And it was a message to Netanyahu.
And I think it was registered. How do you like that? Both in America and in Israel. I think that because the Iranian people used to be a secular country, very advanced, very pro-Western. Shah obviously had made some very big missteps, but compared to the alternative, I think they would take the Shah back any day with all his warts. But isn't it interesting? We talking about things about Trump, and we look at now inflation's essentially zero. Oil prices, some places, not in Connecticut, are below two. Believe it or not, Ripley's believe it or not. But then we look at Biden gives an interview and he's tearing into Trump. Um, I think it's like shouting anything you want in a forest. I don't think anyone even cares. I've never seen a president in my life, adult life, maybe before then, that has faded into oblivion and an irrelevancy faster and more decisively than Uncle Joe.
Well,
Thoughts?
the whole reason that Biden gave the interview, and he has a number of interviews scheduled. He's actually going to be doing more media over the next month than he did in 4 years as president. And the
Hmm.
reason for this is that there is a barrage of books coming out from media personalities, from former Biden staffers, all talking about the cover up of his incompetence and his lack of mental capacity. So he is now going to be doing interviews to be on the offense. He wants to defend himself against these charges and go, no, look, I'm fine. They don't know what they're talking about. Except every time he does one of these interviews, everybody sees that he's not all there.
I
And
did not see this interview. How bad was it?
it was not as bad as some of the ones he's done, but it was bad.
Okay, just checking.
He
And by the way,
mumbles
just
a
real
lot.
quick, just interjecting real quick. I think it's his wife that's forcing him to do that because she cares about her legacy and she really cares like you have no idea not to be invited in any galas. Sorry, but go ahead.
Oh, I'm sure she's the one behind it. I don't think he cares. I think he wants to lay on the beach and forget all this ever happened. But
100% Lopkin.
but
100%. He's he's blown out and he doesn't give a shit anyway. Never really did, and he just checked the box as president. The Scranton kid, low IQ kid, makes it to the presidency. Uncle Joe, and he'd be drinking Coronas and he could care less.
yeah,
But his
I
wife
mean,
would get rid of his ass.
probably. But
Yes.
I can't remember who it was, but somebody was describing what we saw because one of the things he talked about in the interview was he's still trying to tie Trump to Russia. And
Uh-huh.
one commentator actually said the big problem is Biden left a mess with Russia for Trump to clean up. And we all saw, and I love the description. He said, we all saw Biden arguing with himself in public over what to do about Russia. And the problem was Biden lost the argument.
Yeah, I love that. And it's actually true. Yeah, it all started with Afghanistan, and it was a feeding frenzy for the world. I think he will, I mean, Obama will have a legacy. It's diminishing exponentially as we speak, but the first black president, and I think that's actually it. How do you like that? That's what, and Biden will have none. Tweedledee and Tweedledum. You can choose which one's which. And I think that's the way it's going to go. And it's very interesting if you've seen Michelle lately. Um, she's done some well, her podcast has about like 4 listeners, given the hype with her brother, who's a real boy genius. But anyway, the the elitism, the being so out of touch, being so bitter and mean, um, and radical, talking about how horrible it was being first lady, that you had to pay for your food and blah. She's got two. She's worth $1 billion. She's got two with $100 million houses. It's almost comical, and she fears for her kids being abducted. I mean, this lady's not all. She's not well, and I'm not saying that for effect. I think something's a little mashugana with her, and I'm really being honest. And she's a devout racist. She kept it under wraps, but
Well,
everything is racist.
first
And
of
anyway,
all,
one last thing is I heard a commentary is she's also sounds like something that is out of the 1970s. It's like, this is 2025. Okay,
yeah,
it's not the Black Panthers. Just chill.
yeah. First
Go
of
ahead.
all, she never kept it under wraps. Remember, after in Obama's first term, she made the comments. This was the first time she was ever proud of America. So
I
she's
remember that.
never kept her feelings under wraps. I honestly think Michelle Obama right now is doing more damage to Barack Obama's legacy than Biden did.
True. I would agree, and I don't think there's a lot of love lost there because even when she said that, yes, being a black woman, you're faced with all these adversities, and it's even worse because you don't have men in your life that are going to stick up for you. That's a pretty big
That's
bitch
that
slap.
That's a
Sorry,
yeah,
sorry.
that's a shot at Barack. And
No
I
kidding.
mean,
Yup.
seriously, we've had presidents not get along with their wives before. I mean, look at Bill and Hillary. We've never seen them take it out in public like this.
Oh,
It is,
wait. I like when you say no. I like when you said because when you go public, you don't give a shit. I think it sounds
yes,
minor, but it's big. When you keep it behind closed doors, you have a psychology that maybe we can work this out and you care what other people think. When you go public, you don't give a shit on both areas. What about the marriage and about what people think?
yeah, I think
Because
even
they're
more
not
than that.
nuances. They're pretty direct.
Oh, yeah, her attacks against Barack are not nuanced. But like take Hillary, I don't think she gives a damn about Bill. I think the reason that they kept it private was because Hillary didn't want it interfering in her political career.
Yes.
Michelle has, well, she stated she doesn't want a political career, but quite frankly, America doesn't want her to have a political
Well,
career.
no, Dr. Lockton, that was great. That's why you're the doctor. I think either by design or just by coincidence, she blew up that bridge. She always had the thing because people, the uninformed voter, it's Michelle. She's like America's mother. No, she's basically identified herself as what she's really is, a race baiter, not very happy person, and essentially a big radical. She would have 0.0 chance of becoming president. Zero.
Yeah, I don't think she has any, well, certainly not now, but I think part of what is going on there, and I don't want to give him credit for everything because all he's doing right now is existing, and the left is doing this to themselves. But I honestly believe that part of what sent Michelle over the edge was the fact that blacks voted for Trump over Kamala Harris.
Yes, and bypassed did and did not adhere to Obama's edicts, which was
Right.
a slap. Basically, going around Barack and moving towards Trump. That's just a fact. That's a fact.
It is. And let's face it. Remember, when Obama campaigned for Hillary, he campaigned that it was about his legacy, and the
Mm-hmm.
American voters slapped him down. Now it was about black pride, and Michelle was big for Kamala Harris because a black woman, we needed a black woman, and America slapped him down again. And I think the fact of the matter is, yes, we could have a female black president. There is no problem with that. Or we could have a female president in the case of Hillary Clinton. But they keep choosing the worst possible candidates. So it's not about women or black or white or anything like that. It's give us a candidate that we feel is going to have our backs. And that
Yeah, but
certainly won't.
it's also juvenile. Um, it's juvenile rationalization. In other words, when a little kid f's up, it's not his fault. It's because he struck out because it was cloudy, or he flunked a test
Right.
because the lights were too. That's the same thing with the Democratic Party. They can't come to grips with it. Let's face it. Kamala Harris is I'll go right ahead and say it. An abject moron. She just did a speech, and again, words laughing, talking about the effing elephants. I mean, what are you smoking? Like, you're an idiot. She's an idiot. I'm not kidding with you. That's not for posturing. She is a moron, devoid of any original thought. And she lost for good reason.
Yes, there were very good reasons she lost. The Democrats still have not come to terms with that. And I mean, I found it hysterical that there's so much talk already about 2028. We haven't even gotten past the midterms yet. They're not even, Democrats don't seem to be looking at the midterms. They're already planning for 2028. Maybe they think they're going to get wiped out in the midterms. I don't know. But they're talking about bringing Hillary off the bench to run again in 2028. They're talking about AOC. Harris has been talking about the possibility of running again. And I can't remember who said it, but somebody was talking about the fact that you can't underestimate Harris because she still has the donor base. Are you kidding me? Donors have come out and said they will never give her another dime because she spent over $1 billion in 100 days with nothing to show for it.
And just by the way, pissing away money. Again, not strategically. Feeding consultants. It was basically a feeding frenzy at a trough, an unlimited buffet of cash. Oh yeah, we'll put your likeness on the globe in Vegas and have consultants tell you you're the best of the best, so you can keep on funding them. It was a microcosm of what her presidency would have been. It would have been a disaster. But I do think what's the ex-governor of Illinois, he basically, I agree with him 100%. I think they're drifting more toward, you brought up, moderate Democrats and all that stuff. I think they're not drifting; they're accelerating to the right. And I think AOC or
You mean
someone
to
of
the
her
left?
ilk, to the left. I'm sorry, my
Yeah.
I stand corrected. Yes, to the left is a more than a realistic possibility. How do you like that one, Dr. Lopkin?
Well, it's worse
More
than
than realistic.
it's worse than that because the party isn't simply accelerating to the left. They are now actively attacking the moderates. There was a hit piece put out in New York Magazine by left-wing Democrats attacking John Fetterman
Yep.
because he is not kowtowing to them. And the fact of the matter is, right now, he's the voice of reason in the party. If they don't start listening to him, they're going to be in the weeds for a long, long time.
You could call this delusional, but I believe that yes, we've talked about it for years. Okay, Trump has many, many faults, right? But I truly believe a year from now, or a year and a half from now, whatever you want to call it, when people are really looking at the midterms, my little prediction is that the Republicans will pick up in both houses. Is it because Trump's brilliant? No, it's because they're looking at the alternative and it's not pretty.
Well,
It's crazy. I mean, it's
I,
that literally nuts.
yeah, I think also by the time people are seriously looking at the midterms, you're going to have the new trade deals in place.
That's what I'm saying.
You're
Yes.
yeah, you're going to have gas prices dropping even more because the energy infrastructure that he started to put in through executive orders will have started to take shape because these things do take time. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to see inflation lower. So
It already is lower.
I'm saying lower than even now.
Okay.
So all of that together, people are I mean, again, that was a big part of why people voted for Trump because they were going to the supermarket and not believing what they were paying. You're going to see all of those things that actually impact people
Yes. And let me just say one
showing
more thing
benefit.
about a point of clarity in terms of paying too much. Of course, they were paying too much, and an excellent point. But there's also the thing, and the same holds true with the media, the the lack of trust that developed between the general public and both the media and the dem. Oh, there's no the borders in control. People notice that. They come home and they get angry because most people live paycheck to paycheck, and they get mad. They say, they're telling me eggs are fine and inflation's moderating. Dear, I can't afford groceries. I got to put it on a credit card.
right.
And the media, this old crap going back over 10 years, Russia and this, and they try to, and now they start dreaming up these hoaxes, and it's got no saliency. It's got no traction. They go one after another, and it's just and even CNN was interviewing gangbangers from Venezuela, giving them the human touch.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
it is absolutely amazing. Although I did see one press conference that Chuck Schumer did was absolutely hysterical because he started the press conference attacking Trump's poll numbers because
I love that one.
his favorability has actually dropped to 45%
Hmm.
in some of these polls. And one of the reporters actually said to Chuck Schumer at the press conference, "Well, but sir, your poll numbers are even lower, and the Democrats' average poll numbers are around 25%." And suddenly Schumer was going, "Oh, poll numbers don't matter."
Yeah, Schumer's lost his A game as well. His like you said, 17%. I think he's going to be primaried, and he could very well lose. How do you like that? There's no question about that. As the radicalization or the further radicalization of the Democratic Party continues, and but you talk about the media. I have no problem with this. Trump just signed an executive order, if you will, defunding NPR. It's more than time for that.
Yeah, again, we've talked about this before, but NPR and PBS, especially with government funding, don't really have a purpose anymore. I mean,
No,
PBS, first of all, PBS has, I believe, three different cable networks, all of which they get paid by the cable providers to carry. Okay, and we're not talking about your local PBS station. We're talking about Sprouts, which is for little kids. We're talking PBS Kids. I believe there's a third one, but these are essentially commercial networks and they're making money off of that. They have merchandising up the wazoo. All of the streaming services pay PBS for the rights to their programming. So they are bringing in more than enough money that if they weren't run ass backwards, they wouldn't even need the government funding. It wouldn't make a difference. Now,
they don't need the government fund. They don't need the government funding. They're a apparatchik of the Democratic liberal establishment. They are not news. They have well worn out their initial 30 years ago. You could listen to NPR. You actually get some. I remember the News Hour with
Mc,
McNair, I believe his name was.
the McNeil Lehrer report.
Yeah,
Yes.
totally on board. I thought it was excellent. Now they'd be run out of town in that whack job network. And by the way, they should cut the funding because then it would just mean that more libs and radicals would buy more of their tote bags because that's their badge of. That's how you identify your fellow liberal psychotics, by the NPR tote bag. If that went away, their universe might implode.
Yeah, it again, there's no real need for them. All of the educational programming that they used to tout, well, guess what? We've got the Discovery Channel, we've got the Science Channel, we've got, well, I can't even say the Learning Channel anymore because that's not learning, but they've
No,
gone
that has
all
nothing to do with them.
reality. But
But
there are,
the case in point is that they don't serve a purpose. They used to have even interesting, fun shows like Card Talk. Wait, wait, don't tell me. Now it's always an agenda. They are, and also even if you look at the hearings in Congress, their so-called leadership, total smug, elitist, liberal, Ivy League crackpots that need to go back to Vassar and have a sorority rally because it's overdue. Don't let the door hit you on the ass. How does that sound? And speaking of hitting you on the ass, you might get hit on the ass or other places flying, correct, Dr. Lopkin?
yeah, I mean, it is absolutely ridiculous what is going on. And we're seeing, government funding is being cut right and left. Thank God, because we have been overspending, wasting money. And yes, at this point, PBS, NPR, it's, there's no need for them because you have podcasts, you've got YouTube, you've got 500 channels that you can choose from. There is no need for the government to be paying for politically biased coverage.
And do you think there's a need to have NPR broadcast on your next flight? Because at least it'll compensate for not having radar.
Yeah, right. That's somewhere else. We've been paying for all these things, but we haven't been paying for actual infrastructure, despite what Biden claimed with his Infrastructure Act.
It did
I'm,
nothing.
sh- I'm sure most of our listeners have seen what has gone on over the past few days at Newark Airport. We've actually they had 90 seconds where they lost contact with all of the planes. And
That's a
this
long
is
time.
Yes, and this has happened apparently, according to reports, 8 previous times. Why? Because one, the infrastructure they are using is from 1975. How many people even have a phone that goes back then? Most people
Well,
have
wait,
gotten
no,
rid
think
of their
about that. No, wait. That's a
landlines.
good concept. Think about it. What does anyone have from maybe a record of the Doobie Brothers? Like, there's nothing that you
Right.
have from 1975. Nothing.
And
Maybe
yet
a radio in your kitchen that you use while you're cooking or something. I doubt it. Go ahead.
and with all of that, you have life life threatening situations need to be prevented by this 1975 infrastructure.
Do you think they
It
still use punch cards?
No, they don't use punch cards.
I'm kidding.
They use well, it's not far off though. The system still actually
Magnetic
runs
tape?
on floppy disks.
Oh, God.
Yes,
Nice.
it's running on floppy disks, and
That was
instead,
cutting edge, though, in 75.
right, but instead of actually fixing this, and this is a problem that goes back a long time. A lot of people are yelling this was the fault of the Biden administration. No, this was the fault of, I'm going to name 5 people that you can lay this at the feet of: Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, and Joe Biden, because none of them in their previous administrations did anything to fix this problem. The Biden administration made it worse because they halted hiring of qualified people to work as air traffic controllers because they insisted they had to hire DEI people.
And their infrastructure bill did nothing. It was a Green New Deal disguised as infrastructure. And that's why I'm sorry we disagree with this. I have little to no respect for Joe Manchin. He got played like a fiddle. He
Oh, he
signed
was
on to it,
he
and
was
that's why he
played.
is
Yes,
left.
that's
Played like a
yes.
fiddle.
That is why Joe Manchin has left the building, because there was no way he could come back from being played like a fool the way Schumer played him.
Especially in West Virginia, that wasn't going to. And plus, he had no place in the Democrat. His only way was independent or Republican. He has nothing in common with the modern socialists, crazy nutcases in the Democratic
No,
Party.
look
But
look at
our
how
list, well, go ahead.
look at how many moderate Democrats over the past several years, Manchin, Cinema, there were a number of others who have either left altogether or just said, "This is it, I'm done, I'm not running for reelection."
You'll see this accelerating, by the way. And I
We've
believe there's a
already seen it
sheriff.
accelerating.
Yes, it will continue to accelerate. And I believe the sheriff of L.A. did the old switcheroo too, because you've had enough. You've had enough. But our listeners have not had enough, have they, Dr. Lopkin? Hopefully.
Hopefully not. No, they're still with us. And of course, we want to hear what they have to say. So if you're listening to this, go to the Carnivore Radio Facebook page. Let us know what you're thinking. You can also go to xvadio.com/connect. Send us a message. And of course, you can catch every episode of Carnivore Bites at the Carnivore Radio website, xvadio.com, the Apple Podcasts app, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech.
I will see you next week, Dr. Lopkin.
We'll see you then.